Hey, Gator Nation. Welcome back to the Respect Our Decision podcast. This is episode 71. As always, I'm your boy Hirsch. With me, as always, CJ the Man McCann.
What's up, guys?
And the hype man, Wes.
Good, Gator Nation.
Guys, we got a jam-packed episode for you this week, man. Lots of information to cover. Coaching hire, commitment, portal, comings, goings, visits, comings, goings. I mean, y'all know everything's going on. The only thing we don't have to cover is defensive line coach because we still don't have one. We'll talk about the rumors on that later on in the show. But as always, guys, make sure you check us out wherever you get your podcast from. If you're checking us out on the YouTube channel, guys, and y'all have been killing it on the likes and the comments and the subscribes on the YouTube channel, keep it up, man. Give us the best gift that we could have for Christmas. Give us a subscribe to the channel. Hit that button right above, man. And in the comments below, man, leave a player that you would like Santa to bring the Gators for Christmas down below in the comments. Once again, let's be reasonable. Walter Nolan is not going to end up under the Christmas tree. As of right now, I'm not sure Xavier Filsaime is going to be up underneath the Christmas tree. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, but leave it down below, guys. Leave a guy that you see in the portal maybe you would like the Gators to take a shot at, and we'll send a note to Santa and see if he can make it happen for you. All right, boys. Like I said, a lot of information coming down the pike this week, man. It started off Monday. We got busy. Gators finally made their hire at defensive back coach. It's the internet age. We all knew who this was. It was no secret who it was. Will Harris hired as DB coach, formerly now assistant secondary coach of the Chargers. Before that was the defensive coordinator for the Georgia Southern Eagles right down the road from me. I've seen this guy coach in person, didn't even know it. And before that, DB coach at the University of Washington, where he had some really good success there. Guy's 36 years old, man. I mean, he's still a very, very young cat. Very energetic. I really like the vibe I've seen from him already. I mean, he tweeted out, first thing that he was going to see X plug. Not quite the come play for the Joker vibe that everybody was trying to make out of it. But look, man, this is a guy that at Washington, when he was there, helped the Huskies put one of the best defenses in the country on the field. I believe I saw that the last year he was there that the Huskies only gave up 6 passing touchdowns on the season. And that's in a conference, the Pac-12, as we all know, is not known for defense. Had 2 kids there, great. Had an All-American there every year he was there. 2 kids in one season graded out by PFF over 85. I mean, these are really good deep dive numbers when you look at it. Obviously, he's moved up very quick to be 36 years old and already, been to the places he's been. Todd Helton obviously saw something into, Todd Helton. Coach Helton at Georgia Southern obviously saw something in him to bring him on over there as defensive coordinator after being a coach at USC. Yeah, Todd Helton, Tennessee quarterback.
I was about to say with the Rockies?
Colorado Rocky, great. Todd Helton. Yeah. Get together, Hirsch. Slacking. Guys, obviously, I mean, we're just getting to know Coach Harris here. We're doing a little of a, quick study on the man, but Wes, I'll start with you. Are you excited about this guy? I mean, he looks like a really good hire on paper, and I mean, it seems like people are really excited about him.
Yeah, definitely excited. I feel like with Armstrong and how young he is, you want like minds in the room when you're doing when you're collaborating and doing things. I was just watching a podcast about my NFL team, and we're talking about how offensive coordinators sometimes, if you're coming into a new situation, you want to make sure your offensive line coach, as far as the run game, is you guys are collaborating well. And the same thing with Armstrong calling his defense. You want to make sure you have a guy that comes in that has the same ideals that you have as far as how and principles that you have as far as playing defenses, and that matters. You can call it, but if you're not in sync with what your coaches are teaching every day, then you're going to have issues on the back end, and we know the issues we had on the back end with some of the guys that we've had issues with, and I feel like we have a young secondary that may be coming in next year, and to have his imprint and influence on that secondary is essential to us being who we think we can be. We saw the post he made. That means he can connect to the young kids and recruit well, which is shouldn't be hard. I know CJ pointed out some stuff in our group chat, which he's absolutely right about. We shouldn't have to go out of state to be always trying to get DBs. Florida bursts DBs all the time. So that we shouldn't have to go unless you want to go get this 5-star that's in Alabama, this 5-star that's in Texas or in Georgia. But to me, those are neighboring cities, especially with Texas coming into the SEC. So I love his energy. Love his teaching. I'm not going to go and chronicle the things he did at the University of Washington, but it's there. If you want to go look up what he did at the University of Washington and the success he had there, I mean, it's there. I mean, one of the best DBs in the league right now. I want to say, if I'm wrong, you guys can correct me in the comments. Hirsch and CJ correct me. Witherspoon, I want to say he recruited Witherspoon, the DB that's playing for the Seattle Seahawks right now that went on 4 overall. I want to say he was the guy that recruited him. If I'm wrong, you guys correct me, but I think he did. And Washington is always, I mean, Washington made the playoffs and got blown out by Alabama, but they made the playoffs some years ago when he was there, I believe, if I'm not mistaken about that either. So the dude knows defense as far as secondary. I love his attitude. I just want a guy that's not afraid of NIL, that's not afraid of recruiting, of the new age of football. These old guys are getting washed out because they're not accepting what it is. He was in the secondary for the San Diego Chargers, or what is it, the LA Chargers now? But he was there. Of course, he had some guys, Sante Samuel and Darren James. But I mean, they just 6-0.
Coaching Knowles. I mean, he's hamstrung.
Yeah, and I mean that too. But they were 6-0 against the Patriots, I believe. They lost. I mean, they won, and then another low-scoring game this week. I mean, he's doing. He's a part of that defense, even though he was assistant coach. I just love his rise, and apparently the guy's rising that fast and left college to go to the NFL. I just don't think we're going to keep him long. That's my opinion, and that's the type of coaches I want. I want an Armstrong that I feel like if he's going to be that dude that we may have Armstrong for 3 years, 4 years tops. And I feel the same way about Harris. Harris is not going to be here long. Maybe he's the defense coordinator if Armstrong is who we hope he can be when these young guys come into fruition and the better talent than the guys that preceded them. As we talked about, some of these guys were older. Some of these guys, we played a lot of young guys, got to get the teaching in. It takes, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, Hirsch and CJ, maybe they'll speak on it and write a note as they speak. But it takes a unit 2 to 3 years as far as a teacher to get the understanding of with the principles and things you want to do in defense. Kirby didn't come into Georgia and win and started winning right away. We beat Kirby year 1. It took him a while to get the guys he wanted in to teach his principles on that defense with the talent that he had. And then they learned it, and it took them through 3. Okay, this is what I'm supposed to be. I'm going to do my job. I'm going to do my assignment. I may get beat, but coach, I'm going to be where I'm supposed to be. And I feel like that's Armstrong's year 1. He came in late, and I feel like going into year 2 and 3, which I think 2025, we all will envision with Lagway being the sophomore, redshirt freshman quarterback as our year. So hopefully our defense can be up to par then. So I love Harris. I love the young enthusiasm that he has, and I think he'd be great.
CJ,
I like Will Harris. I think Will Harris could be a really good coach for us. He's a young mind. He's not long in the tooth. He's not fed up with everything. You know, he's the kind of coach that seems like he's enthusiastic. He's ready to coach. He's got a great pedigree. He's done a good job. Washington has always produced great defensive back. You can go back to the True Fonts and those guys. That's just what they do up there. You know, I think it's a good mesh. I think he'll fit in well. I think he's going to be a better recruiter than maybe what his stats show at the moment. You know, you look at Washington, it's hard to really recruit Washington. Kids that aren't from the Pacific Northwest historically aren't, you know, running to Washington to play. That's just not what they do. It's kind of, you know, hamstrung. Now things might change a little bit with Washington being on the rise, and you'll see some different things. But historically, Washington, isn't a very easy place to recruit. So I don't really want to judge him based on what he did with what he didn't have. Now he's got Florida. We could say whatever we want to. I'm not going to sit here and tell you we should get every kid that we go after, but Florida is definitely on a list of a lot of kids still. You're going to a state that, like Wes said, produces tons of DBs. We need to get kids out of the state now. There's a double-sided coin there. The 24 class in the state of Florida was historically kind of down, not exactly what we were looking for. There were some good players, but not really just like this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy. You were talking about maybe 4 to 5 kids at each position, maybe. So you're looking at Florida be on the upswing next year. You want to get kids closer to home. It's easier to kind of retain those kids, I think. That's now part of your roster. You have to just work on retention. You got to figure that out, and that's just the way the game is evolving. So I'm not saying you just want to go after low rated kids because they're from around here, but you want to get the higher rated kids in the state. You've got to go. You got to do that going forward. We kind of in 23 we did a good job of it. At 24 we haven't done such a great job of it. A lot of transplants. And talent is talent. And I'm not saying that Florida has better athletes than everybody, but I think that it's more of a sound process to try to get some of these kids from around here. And hopefully Will Harris can do that. I think he's, as far as fundamentals go, you watch how his defenses play, his secondaries played, they all do very good things. They're statistically at the top of the country when he was at Washington. So I think he can bring that here. We're not talking about him being at Washington 10 years ago. We're talking about 3 or 4 years. So it's not like there's a huge time gap that you've got to be concerned with. Like, we talked about Corey Raymond and how his secondaries had not been quite what they once were at LSU. But, this is a guy who was very successful not long ago. Definitely looked like he was doing very good in the NFL. I mean, that whole coaching staff's probably going to get gutted at the Chargers anyway. That's just the way the NFL works. So I don't look too much into him, leaving. I don't think he's a bad coach. I think he's going to do a good job. I think he'll mesh well. I think he'll fit in with the scheme and what they want to run.
Yeah, I really like the fact that once, like we've covered, he's a young guy. This landscape has dramatically changed. This is a young coach's game now. For the most part, a lot of these older guys, man, remember they've been around well before NIL and having to deal with this. And a lot of them don't like it. And one of those was Corey Raymond. Corey Raymond, from all reports, was tired of this new landscape of college football. We covered it in last week's episode. A lot of the recruits that he missed on, that if it hadn't been for NIL stuff, he probably wouldn't have missed on. And you have to know that wears on a guy's, psyche about what he's doing when it's like, man, I'm tired of this. If I got to coach paid players, that I'm having to, fend off the highest bidder for, I might as well go to the NFL and at least do it at that level. And I think that's what you're going to see Corey Raymond and maybe a few other guys that are a little more older in the game do. This is a young man who's chasing that opportunity right now. Will Harris is looking for that next opportunity. He's a guy that's played the position. He played the last few years under Pete Carroll at USC. He was in their secondary when they were going 12-1 and 13. He played on those teams at corner and then at safety later on in his career. He's got defensive coordinator experience. Whether you say, well, he's only 1 year at Georgia Southern, that's still defensive coordinator experience. He's called play. He knows the whole defense. It'll work well with Armstrong, who works with the safeties as well. And maybe he won't now that he's got a guy that's got fellow defensive coordinator experience coaching his secondary. We'll just have to see how all that plays out in the spring and whatnot. But you really, really got to go back to, like I said, he's a young guy. He's coached at both levels. He's coached with the NFL players now. He's coached with college players. He's a guy that likes to work and develop guys. And if you've watched our product on the field the last few years, regardless of your thoughts of Corey Raymond, You may say Corey Raymond didn't just forget how to coach, and you may well be right. But maybe he was not, his whole heart wasn't into it. I mean, you just have to step back and we don't know. We know that he was ready to go. So can't wait to see what Will Harris can do. But he's not walking into the easiest of challenges, not just from the coaching standpoint. Obviously, he's got his work cut out on the field. But, man, he walks into a hornet's nest in recruiting right off the rip. You've got rumors, and I use the term rumors lightly because it isn't just rumors, guys. It's the truth is out there. The X-Files, the truth is out there. Xavier Filsaime is neck deep in talks with the Texas Longhorns. They are sitting very good right now to try to get a flip from him. And as we speak right now, Will Harris and Coach Napier and Armstrong are getting ready to go in home with Filsaime in there in Texas. And this might be the last, the Hail Mary attempt to get him back in the class. And who knows? Maybe he sits down with Will Harris, and Will Harris is like, and he's like, man, this is what I wanted to hear. Florida's going in the right direction. Or maybe it's too late. Maybe Texas money's already got him, thinking everything's bigger in Texas, and I'm going to stay here and see and be part of a winning team right now. And guys, therein lies, the rub. You lose games, negative recruiting becomes very easy. You fire coaches, negative recruiting becomes very easy. You're seeing it with other players that are up in the air right now, Amaris Williams, and a few others. I mean, I feel pretty good about the rest. I think LJ McCray's probably in a really good spot for the Gators. I'm not worried about that. I think Filsaime and Amaris Williams are probably the two biggest worries you have right now, but both of those guys are being negatively recruited with the fact that your team can't win and your coaching staff is most likely not going to be there next year. This is, you reap what you sow. It sucks for us as fans because we can't do anything about it except grin and bear it and cuss on social media, which we do. We let our displeasures be known. At the end of the day, these coaches got to go out there and earn their keep. All I ask is, hey, don't be that fan that if Xavier Filsaime flips to Texas, oh, well, this Will Harris guy ain't worth a crap. He had one job and he couldn't even get that done because he's walking in with unloaded, unloaded gun. So, but hey, man, it's not all negative news. We did get a commitment right off the rip this week with the same day on Monday from a big time player out of the JUCO ranks, Brien Taylor Jr., committed to Florida over UGA and Auburn. And make no mistake about it, UGA wanted this guy. This is a big guy, man. A 6'6", 270 pound. He's out of Blinn Community College there in Texas. He's from Texas. If you've seen pictures of this guy, he's the epitome of looks like Tarzan. And from the videos I've seen, at least against his competition, he plays like it too. This is like the number 8 JUCO player in the whole country. So it's been a while since we really dipped into JUCO for a guy that, we thought could be a solid contributor. I mean, you get guys from JUCO, but usually they're fillers. So, CJ, what's your take on Brien Taylor and what he might be able to contribute next year?
I mean, let's get him in here and let's see. That's my mindset with the guys from JUCO. They might be great. They might not. It's just, I think that's everybody. When you're talking to recruiting, nobody's a guaranteed 100% stamp of approval success. Can't miss. It doesn't exist. There's very few of those guys. The guy, from what you see on the film, he looks explosive. He's got great size. He looks like the typical defensive lineman that you want to get. If Georgia wants him, then obviously he's got to be pretty good. Auburn, same thing. I think that he's a guy that could come in and definitely help contribute. That's what you're looking for right now. Florida is in the mindset they need guys who could come in and play and make immediate impacts because the situation that we're in. We can't afford to take guys right now that we're like, well, maybe he'll play, a couple years, sit him on the bench, so we'll wait to see. I just don't feel like that's practical right now for Billy Napier and his staff. And I think Billy's not an idiot. I think he knows that. I think he knows I gotta start winning some damn football games. So you're not going to do that with a bunch of freshmen. At least I wouldn't attempt that. Freshmen are still freshmen. We saw it last year. We had a lot of talented freshmen, but they still played like freshmen. That's just what the reality of the situation is. So if you're leaning on those guys, you got to be worried about it. I understand junior college and the SEC are two different animals, but it's not unheard of for these guys to come in and have success. He can definitely come in and have some success. He's got snaps under his belt. He can come in and contribute. I'm not saying he's going to be an All-American, but you've got to look at it from the mindset of this guy knows what he's doing. He won't be as hard to teach. You don't have to start from ground zero. This guy knows exactly where what he's doing at this point. He's played the game for a while. So he's definitely a guy that you can look at and say that guy could come in now and make an impact. And I think that's why Florida wanted him. I think that they need to get some guys now, especially on that defensive line, that can come in and make an impact because the defensive line play has not been stellar. I would say there's bright spots. There's for sure some bright spots. There's some guys that are doing some great things, but it's not consistent enough yet. You've got to be able to get pressure. We're not getting pressure. We're not getting in the backfield. We're not producing enough tackles for loss. You've got to get guys who can come in, and it's not all technique. You've got to have guys that are explosive. You can't teach the first step. If either guy's got it or he doesn't. You can kind of teach him some of the moves, some of the techniques inside to kind of get yourself free. But you can't teach a motor. The guy's either got it or he doesn't. And I think they feel like this guy's got it.
Wes, so you like this pickup of Brien Taylor? I mean, he looks the part.
Yeah, I like it from different reasons. From some stuff I agree with CJ on, and some stuff that I disagree with what he said. I'm not as concerned with the D line as he is, and to me, it's more of a development thing. I like Jackson. I like Lyons. I like Watson. It hurt to lose my boy. You were listening to this
McClellan.
podcast for the last 2 years, McClellan. I hated that loss, but inside, I feel like those guys are guys. We just need more development there as far as hand techniques, being more violent. I've said on this podcast before, I missed Jonathan Bullard. To me, 21, as much as people like Easley and Floyd, which I loved those guys when they were here, to see Bullard being kind of undersized and playing that D tackle position and having 21 tackles for loss, to me was something ridiculous. And I would love to see that again. And to me, that's the thing. Whoever I can't remember who our D line coach was, but I don't know if Bullard developed that on his own, but that is something that to me was special. To live in it, to have the defense that we had with Keanu Neal and Marcus May and Vernon Hargraves and Chris Wilson, Jalen Tabor and Jared Davis and Antonio Morrison and Brian Cox Jr. on the side and Alex McAllister. But he was the focal point of the defense because he could direct the whole offensive what they were trying to do at that defensive tackle position, and that's what we were missing. And I love what I saw from I can't remember the names right now. From Kurt. What's that two DNs name? I don't know why I can't think of the name right now. Cersei and Kelby Collins.
Kelby Collins, yeah.
Yeah. So to me, as CJ was saying about we can't count on freshmen, to me those guys are coming in sophomore year. So I need to step up. They were highly recruited guys. Sophomore year, I need you to show me something. Cersei, I need you to take another step. He had flashes, like you said, but he was playing behind Princely, who had an awesome year. So he couldn't get on the field as much. But next year is your year. Kelby Collins, okay, you were behind a guy. We have Boone coming back. Boone tore something, so he may not be Boone, but we have Kelby Collins backing up Boone. And we have Cersei. So I just need guys to back up. Hopefully, if like Hirsch was just talking about McCray being in his class, you have that freshman to like Cersei was this year to back up Cersei this year. So I'm not as to me, I just want development on the D-line because I feel like we have a lot of talented guys. We have the guys to do things up front. To me is the teaching and the development, and if the defense can allow those guys to be special. Because I feel that if they go to Georgia, or they go to those guys had offers through those schools. Kevin Collins could have gone to Alabama. TJ Searcy he wasn't as recruited as well, as high as some of those other guys that we got in, but we saw the talent, we saw the hustle. Some things that we got on some guys about, like, what am I supposed to do on this play? Searcy made plays with effort. He has that motor. So I love that about him, and he seems coachable. So whoever this new defensive line coach that comes in, he can work with him because he's a guy that seems teachable. Those are the type of guys that some fans. One of my boys who I talked to gets a lot of news from. He was like, "What culture is Napier building?" I'm like, "Culture of guys that want to be at the University of Florida." Because I feel like Searcy could have left. He put enough on film that if he wanted to chase a bag, somebody could have come and got him. Whether it was Arkansas, it didn't have to be a special school, but he could have got a bag.
Collins absolutely did.
Exactly. So those guys could have gone other places. So the recruiting class and the guys that he's getting in want to be Florida Gators, because we know from the stuff that we all hear from different sources. CJ has a different source than I have. Hirsch has a different source than I have. I have a different source that they have. We know we don't pay money like some of these other schools are paying money. So if these guys are at Florida, it's because they want to be at Florida. From our knowledge, maybe there's some other stuff that we don't know from other people, but from what we know from guys that we get information from, the guys that are at Florida, root those guys on because they definitely want to be here, because I'm pretty sure the guys that are talented, the Castells, the Collins, the Cerseys, those guys are getting bagged offers from other schools. Trust me, behind the scenes. Stuff that we are too timid, like Hersh was talking about, that we don't do, that we're scared of. Other schools are doing it, and they're trying to get our guys. They're trying to make sure that we are the trash of the SEC, even though we're University of Florida. Whether it's Miami, Florida State, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, those guys are coming after our talented guys. And the guys that stay here that I believe that are still talented and that can make and be difference makers on the defense and offense, those guys want to be University of Florida Gators. And they want to play for the Coach Napier and whoever the defensive coaches that come in. But it starts with Napier. So I'm got to give Napier credit for the guys that he's bringing in that are staying, because we have a lot of talented guys on our roster that other teams will be happy to get and pluck from us.
Yeah. I really do like the talent on the defensive line, like you said. And I know everyone is just eagerly awaiting this announcement of the defensive line coach. A lot of rumors out there. No, it's not Ed Orgeron. Sorry to burst y'all's bubble.
Yeah.
I know everybody wanted to hear him say "Go Gator." I know that, but it ain't gonna happen.
We lit a fire out of there.
Yeah,
we lit a fire out of
there. Don't forget to tip your waitress on CJ for the impersonations. Rumor in the stove is it's Duke defensive line coach Jess Simpson. I'm not going to beat around the bush on that. It is what it is. That's the rumored name right now. Supposedly, we're waiting till probably after Duke plays their bowl game. Why are we waiting? I don't know, guys and girls. I am not in charge of contracts at the University of Florida and this, that, and the other. I don't make those money decisions. Know this, Billy Napier doesn't make those money decisions either. If you want to direct anger at somebody about that, his name is Scott Strickland. That's what that goes to. Yeah, I can't help you with that. Jess Simpson, you can do your research on this. He's had very good defensive lines at Duke. He was Dan Quinn's choice to be his defensive line coach for the Atlanta Falcons when they had some good seasons. I'm not going to get into that. He was Manny Diaz's defensive line coach at Miami. Say what you will about Manny Diaz, the head coach. The guy does know good defense. He's a good defensive coach, and was the associate head coach at Miami. So he's got a decent resume, and he's not going to knock your socks off with his recruiting exploits and things like that. But I've said this to other people in our Facebook chat and other conversations I've had. But right now, I watched Coach Spencer miss on every nose tackle he recruited for over 2 cycles. I've watched our defensive line play like they're not full, like they haven't been developed really, really well. And I know Mike Pete is doing a lot of good recruiting, especially for the outside guys, the LJ McCrays of the world, if you will. Get me a coach that can develop for right now. Because let me tell you this, say things do go sideways next season, Billy Napier and staff are out the door, at least maybe the next guy inherits a well-developed room. I mean, you have to look at this from positive outlooks. Maybe he comes in and says, "Oh, you guys are playing, let's get your technique better. Let's get your, all of that worked out." I mean, these are I am a glass half full kind of guy when I look at these situations, because that's how I choose to look at them. I know a lot of people will choose to look and be like, that hire don't move my needle a bit. And that's fair. That's your choice. If you don't like a hire, you don't like a hire. But that's just a rumor right now. Nothing's official. I guess we'll see when we see. I mean, all we can do is wait, because they like to make us wait. What can I say, guys? Let's talk about some other visitors that were in, especially 2024 recruits. Greg Smith took his official visit. He did push his decision date back. It was supposed to be today. He pushed it back to early signing day. But the reason for that supposedly is he's having a big recruiting commitment video filmed. I mean, I've told there's nothing to worry about on that everybody at the University of Florida feels good about this. Take it for what you will. The real recruit that interests a lot of us, Jaden Bobb, the Arkansas running back commit, visited, said he was absolutely blown away, said he thought his commitment to Arkansas was at 50%, which to me just says he's about ready to bolt one way or another. He is going to take a visit this weekend to Alabama, but Alabama just added another running back to the visit list for this weekend. Miami commit. I can't remember the young man's name, but he's from Alabama. So that to me tells me that maybe Alabama feels like Boss trending towards us, so they better find another guy. I think they're also heavily favored to get Lacey, that's about to commit, that was previously committed to Nebraska. So really looking forward to that. I know the staff feels really like Jaden Baugh is a number one back kind of kid. He certainly looks the part. I urge you to go check out his highlights and whatnot. I think he would be a great addition to the class on top of Kanan Daniels. That gives you two solid running backs to add to that room. That, of course, we just lost, Trevor Etienne out of that room. But early word right now, even though he hasn't announced anything officially, is that the staff does feel like Montrell Johnson is going to return next season, which would be tremendously important at this stage after losing Trevor. At least you would still have that. You'd have Webb. You don't know how Cam Carroll is going to come back, obviously, from another knee injury. But so depth at the running back room right now is very important. We had some portal guys visit. Defensive lineman Joey Slackman from Penn University visited. Word coming out of the visit was we felt very good, but apparently he's still going to take some more visits. Here we are. Wide receiver Shamir Dyke from Wisconsin visited. Obviously, that's a former wide receiver that played under Graham. He's going to take a visit to Utah. I don't believe that is the kid that the staff wants at wide receiver. I don't know, maybe if they took the visit as a courtesy or a backup plan. But we've got some receivers coming in this weekend that I think are a little bit more higher on the list of what they're looking for, and we'll cover them in a second. But there just wasn't a whole lot of information that came out about the young man's visit to say, hey, I loved it. It was this, it was that. You didn't hear, oh, it was great to come hang out with Graham and, get to hear. You just didn't hear a whole lot about the visit. So obviously, we're getting some guys in this last weekend, but this weekend, it looks like we're finally going to start bringing in some offensive line talent, which I know Wes is going to be very excited about. And I know most of the fan base is going to be excited about. And not only are we bringing in some portal guys, but a couple of more JUCO guys as well, which is a very interesting move to me by the staff, that they're looking at some of these JUCO guys, because CJ covered it earlier. You see, JUCO's, it doesn't have the greatest history for producing. Obviously you can show the outliers, the Cam Newtons of the world, the Aaron Rodgers. Recently there's been some more guys. I know CJ put out a list the other day on social media. Jermaine Johnson at FSU was one that jumped off the page. But we're just going to break some of these names down real quick and talk about it. And I want to start with what I feel like is the biggest visit, literally, figuratively, all of that, of the weekend. And that is offensive tackle Brandon Crenshaw Dixon out of San Diego State. This is a young man that's been a 2-year starter for San Diego State at offensive tackle. He's 6'6", 310 pounds. He was like their highest graded offensive lineman last year. This is a guy. And now you got to remember, last year we were after their other offensive tackle, Simmons, that ended up going to Ohio State. So this is a guy they're trying to get him in real fast. They've obviously made him a priority. They're getting him here quick. And before we move on to any of the other guys, I want to say they're also bringing in JUCO offensive tackle. His name is Maurice Rodriguez out of California. This is a kid that's 6'7", 320 pounds, another offensive tackle that plays at Saddleback College in California. He's just got offered by USC as well. He's a kid that's been off the radar, but apparently has really started to blow up here in recent weeks. Wes, does getting a couple of these big-time offensive linemen in here start to ease your mind a little bit about what we're looking for?
Yeah, everybody's upset about the portal and how aggressive we're going to be in the guys. I feel like we have a lot of talent on a lot of positions as far as youth, and I want to see that youth movement. As recruiting, I felt like 2024 was our year. As far as the team being able to compete year in, year out, I feel like 2025 was our year with DJ Lagway. We need offensive linemen. Because I feel like the other positions that linebacker, we have dudes coming in. DB, we got some guys last year that are going to come in and produce in the years to come. Receivers, Andy Jean. We saw Eugene Wilson. Mizell didn't play this year. Backs, we have Webb. We have Caden Daniels coming in. Quarterback, we have Lagway coming in. Linebackers, I think I just said that. We have guys coming in at linebacker. D-line, we get McCray. We have Cersei. We have Collins. I feel like, to me, Hurst, CJ, offensive line is the position. I chronicled how our play action that Napier wanted to run. Maybe he's not the offensive coordinator next year. But I feel like the things that he wanted to do, he wasn't able to do because whenever we ran that play action pass, that the shot play that every offensive coordinator in football runs, it's a play action pass. It's something that sets the defense up. You take your shot play when you get to 45 on in, when you're on your side, 45 on where we use the 50, the other team's 45. They take every offensive coordinator takes that shot play. We weren't able to do it because whenever Mertz hit his back step after that play action play, somebody was in the backfield. I don't care what we take in the portal, whether it's a JUCO guy, whether it's a guy that played at San Diego State. I need offensive linemen to challenge the offensive linemen that we have, to give Mertz the opportunity to take that shot to Aiden Mizell next year, to Andy Jean next year, to Eugene Wilson next year, to Jackson next year, because Jackson can make some plays when the ball is in the air and he's one-on-one. I don't mind our receivers. I don't mind with Jackson coming in, and we saw Bordenham take some steps. He kind of disappeared the later half of the season. I don't mind our tight ends. I don't mind the backs. I mean, we left Trevor. I want Johnson to be able to work on his catches. We have some guys coming back. Because Caden Daniels is a versatile guy, played quarterback at his school. So to me, he's an athlete. I'm pretty sure he can probably catch the ball as well. I don't mind anything on offense. I don't care about anything on defense right now. I know Hurst has some stuff about the safety position, which I concur with him as far as depth is concerned. But to me, the most important position that we need to address, in the portal is offensive line. Unless Kearney steps up, unless the kid from IMG that we got
Najee Harris
steps up, to me, our tackles, I would love to move Barber because Barber wasn't great at left tackle this year.
Let me hijack you on that a bit because a report came out this week, and I'm glad you brought this up about Austin Barber was playing with an absolute multitude of injuries this year. They were saying he had to get a shot in his ankle every game to play. He eventually was playing with a broken clavicle and then a torn labrum towards the end of the year. So if you can imagine being a tackle and having to use have your arms up and block and try to get power, out of your arms and trying to play through that while on a bum ankle. I mean, once again, not making excuses for anybody, but that's a hell of a lot of stuff for an offensive tackle to go through. I do agree with you. Maybe he should slide back to right because he was absolutely great at right tackle. But
he was.
I just wanted to put kind of an asterisk out there about Barber because you brought that up. That hey, this guy was playing with hella injuries.
Hurst, to piggyback on what you said, whether he plays left tackle or right tackle, we know Barber's solid.
He's got that attitude. He's got the right, yeah.
Yeah, he's here. He's the type of guy that you can plug in and okay, well he spent. It wasn't that he was horrific at left tackle. We just know the year before, and then that you add those points about him being injured. Maybe that was his struggle at left tackle. I don't care I need tackles that are going to be able to help him, whether he goes to right tackle or stays at left tackle and somebody else goes to right tackle. Because it was, offensive line, we know what they were. I like Slaughter. From what I saw, he was better than Kingsley. To me,
I think you'll definitely see a definite second-year jump for Slaughter. I agree with you on that. That's just reps and experience. You saw him get better every game. Well, I know some will say he didn't.
It was new to it was his basically, if he was in the NFL, it would have been his rookie year. This is his first time taking snaps in the SEC in the trenches with great defensive tackles. We know what the SEC is about. So if we play in the best conference, you know what every conference is trying to do. The best guys are playing in the FCC in the trenches on the defensive side of the ball. So he had his struggles. But to me, that was a learning experience for him to come into next year. You know what I didn't see? What Kingsley used to do? The false snaps, where false start on everybody on the offensive line.
He couldn't do that because Damian George was always taking it away from him.
Yeah, but I like what our offensive line can be with some guys coming in. We had some highly recruited guys. You mentioned Harris from IMG, that I forgot his name, Kearney, who was more highly recruited than Harris was. I just need some tackles to be able to give Mertz, because Mertz can put the ball where Mertz is a great game manager. And we'll get into this next spring, but if our defense can do what we hope they can do, what they started to do at the beginning of last year, and Mertz is going to hit these guys, what I feel like Andy Jean, and I feel like Mazel, and I feel like Wilson can do, I feel like we're straight. I just need guys in the trenches for depth pieces as well to make sure that we're straight. That's all I care about. I don't care about any other position. I don't care about DBs. We got a lot of talented guys in the secondary. We're bringing some guys from linebacker that are recruited. I know they're freshmen, but they're highly, highly recruited guys. We probably have the second or third best linebacker class in the country, if not first, in my opinion. So I feel like we're straight for next year, even though we have a tough-ass schedule. So offensive line is where it's at. And I want that kid from San Diego State.
CJ, what are your feelings on the offensive lineman we're bringing in?
Offensive line has been something that I think we've all hit on as much as we can. I've said from the beginning, from years and years and years and years and years, I said the University of Florida will never have a great football team until we have a good offensive line. That's just the way I believe football starts and begins, and it ends with that offensive line. I've never in my life watched a team play for a national championship and said, damn, that offensive line looks suspect. It just doesn't happen. You cannot run a team that way. I think we've got a lot of guys that are playing out of position. I think Damian George is, I'm not saying he's an all-conference player, but I think he'd be better if he was playing guard than if he was playing tackle. You saw Slaughter come through and get ready to go. He started off kind of shaky, but as the year went on, I kind of preferred to have him in there over Kingsley, and I think he'll take another step this year. We talk about Barber. Barber's probably our best offensive lineman we have. The guy's dealing with some injuries. It is what it is. You got to get in there and you got to get his. I want bodies. I want depth. I want you to get me every swinging dick you can for the offensive line in the portal, because at this point we can't get no worse. We got to have guys. Can you play? I'm on the Deion Sanders plan right now. Get them in the fall. If they don't work out, push them out in the spring and get some more in, because we got to get it fixed. The football team next year will begin and end, and it will go with that offensive line. So you've got to get everybody you can get. If this kid from San Diego State gets here, I do not want him leaving the campus without saying, I'm coming to Florida. He's the kind of guy that I'm not usually this kind of guy that really freak out about stuff like this. But damn it, you got to get something going here. I mean, everybody's looking at you. I know behind the scenes. If you're behind the scenes and you know stuff, been told stuff, we're doing things. But on the outside looking in, it looks like we ain't doing jack diddly squat. So you've got to get something going, and a lot of that's to no fault of Billy Napier. We've touched on a lot of the stuff that happens within the program that isn't his fault. Billy Napier isn't write NIL checks. Billy Napier isn't paying salaries for coaches. That's not what he does. So if you want to get mad at somebody, he's not the one to get mad at. I'm sure Billy Napier would love to speed up a lot of these processes. And I understand there are some things he takes pretty slow, but I don't think that this is one of them. Get these guys in here, get the offensive line fixed. I'm not saying you need to take 5 offensive linemen like Deion Sanders. I'm not saying you need to take that, but you need to get at least 1 or 2 guys who are quality players. Honestly, and as much as we dog the offensive line recruiting, I think this is probably one of our better offensive line classes that we've brought in the 24 class in a long time. I think Maskell and Williams and those guys, they could be developed, but the problem is we don't have time to develop at the moment. You got to start winning some ball games. So you got to lean on the guys that you got in last year. You got to hope that Najee Harris can take a step. You got to hope that Roger Kearney can take a step. Cade Jones, can he figure it out? Cameron Waits, can you get back to what you were before you got hurt? You got to get these guys fixed, and you've got to get as many more bodies as you can in the room to make sure that they're all being pressured. You're getting the best 5 guys out there on the field, and if somebody goes down, it's not the end of the world. That's the problem with this offensive line. You just didn't have any depth behind it, and the starters you had weren't exactly great options. And it is what it is. We could have saw Graham Mertz behind a terrible offensive line, an offensive line that was porous. We saw Graham Mertz do things that I don't think any of us expected him to do. When you throw for 3,000 yards and 20 touchdowns and you run for a couple of more, that's not what we thought Graham was going to do. If you could give him some time with the weapons that we have, with the Andy Jeans, with the Aiden Mizels, with the Eugene Wilson, with an Arliss Sportingham, with an Amir Jackson, with Jeray Hawkins and Tawaski Abrams, those guys, game breakers. They got speed. If you could give him just a fraction of a second more in that pocket, I'd be amazed. I'd like to see what Graham could do. So This is one position where, as far as recruiting, and we're talking about the portal, this is one position you've got to start getting some wins at, because if you don't, I don't like the way we look going into the next season against great defensive lines. You're talking about playing every team in Florida. You're talking about every team in Mississippi. You're playing 2 teams from Texas. I mean, you've got ball teams coming into the swamp, and you've got to go 2 places and play against them. You've got to get this offensive line right, especially when you're talking about places you got to go on the road. You're talking, false starts and things like that, procedure penalties. You've got to get some experienced guys in there to really be able to weather the storm of this crowd. You go to Texas, that place is going to get crazy. You got 115,000 people in the building. This is a serious season for this team. It's got to get started. It's got to get some offensive linemen. It's got to get these guys in here and get developed. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if Sale and Stapleton are going to be your offensive line coaches. I really don't care. You've got to fix that offensive line, or you won't be able to do anything else anyway. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yep.
Yeah, and these are just the names we got right now, guys. I would fully expect there's going to be more than a few more added to this list as the weekend approaches. I mean, as we're recording this right now, it's Wednesday night. A lot of these kids don't confirm until tonight, tomorrow night, maybe even Friday morning. And, the staff doesn't want everybody's name to get out because they're competing with other teams to get these guys on visits right now in this short portal window. Some receivers, Wes was talking about some receivers a minute ago, and I was talking about earlier when we were talking about Shamir Dyke, but receivers that you might, as of right now, these are rumored names that could be here this weekend. The biggest being Ja'Cory Brooks, transfer from Alabama. As you might remember, we were recruiting this kid a couple years back. He came real close to coming to Florida. I mean, we were one of the finalists for him. He's from Florida, a guy that was playing, but then he was injured last year. Got a little passed up on the depth chart by Isaiah Bond, who we know is a really good wide receiver. Should have been a Gator. Another story for another day. Thank you, Dan. So that would be a great get right there if you can get Ja'Cory Brooks on campus and possibly get a commitment from him. I know a lot of people feel good that if he makes it, things could happen there. Cyrus Allen is another one, wide receiver from Louisiana Tech. This is a young man that had 46 catches for 778 yards last year on a team that went 3-9. So, I mean, he's one of those speed and space kind of guys, though, real fast. And that's what the staff is looking for, I believe. Still more speed, more. We've seen it in the recruiting classes. Isaiah Williams, Hawkins. All these guys are speed guys, and that's what they're trying to get is just lots of speed that they can work with in different ways, like you've seen with Trey Wilson. So the other name that we have confirmed as of tonight at 7:45 on a Wednesday evening is JUCO defensive tackle Malcolm Acorn Crowder. Now that's a damn football name for you, ain't it? Or a soup. I don't know what that is. He's a defensive tackle, 6'6", 300 pounds. This is a guy, though, at the JUCO level that had 9 sacks in 2023. So he's a guy that he only had like 28 tackles or something like that. He's the number 28 rated JUCO prospect in the country. So this is them trying to get another guy that has got production on the defensive line, another big body. We talked about that earlier. So, once again, though, going that JUCO route. And I don't know if that's because some of the JUCO guys might come a little cheaper than some of the portal guys. That's out of my league as far as those decisions go. And you can take from that what you will. But guys, that's about it right now. That's what we know. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of stuff going on. The schedule just released. Yes, the schedule is absolutely murderous, like we expected it to be. I don't know how else to put it, guys. It's ugly. If you haven't seen the schedule already, I mean, of course, we open with Miami, but that last stretch of games is, guys, if Billy makes it through the season, then he really did something. Because it starts on November 2nd with Georgia, and then you go November 9th at Texas, November 16th LSU at home, November 23rd Ole Miss at home, and then you finish November 30th at Florida State. That's an evil stretch of ball games, boys. We get 2 byes next year. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I got 2 weeks for mental health.
Yeah. Now, if you look at the front half of the schedule, if you can get this team right, you can get a fast start out of the gate. Now, Miami at home in the first game of the season, Miami's going to be a team that's going to give you trouble depending on who they get at quarterback in the portal. They've got a good offensive line. They got good running backs. You're going to have to get the defense right. They're going to come, but it's a home game. So you start with them. Then you got Samford the next week. Then you got Texas A&M coming in. And, of course, they're going to be a new coach, a whole bunch of new players.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then at Mississippi State for your first road game, and then before you got a bye. So you've got a chance right there to really get out the gate strong. And then you come back from the bye and you've got UCF at home, which you should beat UCF. I don't want to hear you can't lose to UCF at home. There is no scenario. If you lose that game, you might as well pack your bags that night and just head on down the road. And then you go travel to Tennessee October 12th, then Kentucky at home. I mean, you're going to be playing. Nico is going to be starting for Tennessee in that game. I mean, but the problem with that is he's going to have quite a few games under his belt by that point, and it's on the road. Huh?
I don't like playing Tennessee when it's not in September.
It's weird, man.
We're supposed to. They're throwing a party over there. They were like, "Thank God we don't have to play Florida in September."
Yeah, because Nico's gonna get his feet wet, and they're gonna, Now, lots of things can happen, and we understand that. One is, I mean, you get this offensive line even remotely serviceable. Graham Mertz is in his second year. You could put up some really good numbers on offense, but there's a lot of things that have to happen, and that defense has to turn around. But like I said, the front half of that schedule is going to play out where you could absolutely get way ahead of things here. And that's what you have to play for. I mean, that back half is torturous. But you get ahead of the 8 ball and you roll into the Georgia game, with a good winning record. You're 4 or 5 games in the win column. I mean, up. You can make some things happen, and Billy buys himself another year. But he's, it's all on his shoulders to get up, like I said, to get ahead of things there. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode, man. We appreciate you all tuning in. Like I said, lots of things happening. Stay tuned into our social media pages. Make sure you check our Twitter and our Facebook page. And if you haven't already, make sure you join our Facebook chat that we've got over there. We talk each and every day about what's going on with Florida and recruiting, coaching rumors, all of that. We'd love to have you. We got a great community there, very positive for the most part. Everybody's very civil, and we appreciate that. Also, guys, it's either going to be next week or the week after. Pod of the People is going to make its triumphant return. So go ahead and be thinking about those questions. And you guys that ask baseball questions, make sure you get those questions ready for CJ. Because God knows CJ's ready to talk about some baseball.
Please, I think we're all ready to talk about baseball. Yeah. I think we'd like to get back to baseball because, man, everything was a lot more fun when it was the summertime. The baseball team was winning. We were recruiting our ass off. Boy, we were doing good.
Mm-hmm. We need that positivity. We are a baseball school.
That's right, baseball school.
I mean, it is what it is right now. So, I mean, just go, like I said, go ahead and be thinking about things you want to ask. Obviously, we'll make an announcement officially when that's going to be, when we start that, so y'all can send in questions. And, we appreciate y'all that participate with that each and every week when we do it. CJ, what you got to add before we get out?
Just make sure you support our friends with Alma Mater. They're dropping new stuff weekly. It's Christmas time. Go there and get some stuff for Christmas. You better hurry up, though, if you want it in time for Santa Claus to be here. As they can't work miracles. The United States Postal Service is what it is. So you got to better go get your stuff that you can find over there. Use our link that helps us out a ton, helps them out a ton. They've got all kinds of stuff that's coming out over there. They've got a brand new the white Florida baseball script hat. They've got that in blue now, which looks really nice. I'm going to be picking one of those up. So they've got it in blues. You go pick that one up. I love anything blue. We got to get as many colors as we can get. So thank you guys so much for supporting us, supporting the Facebook, supporting the Twitter, supporting the YouTube channel. Get your, like Kurt said, get ready for the questions. I'll probably start at the community question again. I'll find out some things I want to ask you guys. So be on the lookout for that for sure. But thank you guys so much for the continued support, helping us grow. Channel's doing great numbers. We really appreciate it, especially in a time when it's kind of everything's not really looking.
It's not always fun to be a fan right now.
Yeah, it's not everything's not perfect at the moment. But there's a lot of news coming out. We're getting ready for next week's show where we'll be wrapping up early signing day. So keep your ear to the ground for that. Thank you so much for all of us.
Yes, sir. Wes, take us home.
Yeah, a lot of stuff what CJ said, I want to reiterate and piggyback off of. Thank you guys for the support. If you listen to us, that means you really, really, really love the Florida Gators because we know
Ain't no fair weather
the
fans in here, baby.
Nah, you gotta really love us to be listening. So we thank you guys for listening. And if you're still here, trying to get the latest news, that means you're dedicated and you're a true Gator. So we appreciate that. And CJ's talked about our link and our sponsor. Please click a link and shop. And if you want to get your kids something, if you want your spouse to get you something, Florida Gators, send them that link so they can get you anything using our link. We appreciate the support. Continue to follow us. Get in that Facebook chat. Hirsch is really, really, really in there conversating with the guys. So he's doing his thing there. So I got to give him his flowers as he's continuing to converse with you guys and give you guys the latest of what's going on. But we appreciate you guys. Can't wait to see what happens next week. Saturday, CJ said, is coming to a close, and we'll have a recap of that. So you guys can hear firsthand what we think about what we got and who we kept and who we maybe flip if that happens next week. So stay tuned, and hopefully there's some good news. And as always, go Gators.
Go Gators.
Go Gators, guys. Be easy. Get that Christmas shopping done. We'll see you next week.